Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Hope you guys are full of energy this morning and ready for a good show. We've got our resident attorney on with us this morning, Kate Garvey. We're going to talk some legal, but as we always do, let's open it up to the floor a little bit. See if somebody's got something pressing on one of their deals. Somebody learned something yesterday, got a question on something, got a share for the group. What do we got? Who's working on something? Not all of you at once. Don't bring me all your deal problems at once. But we are supposed to do some deal doctoring on here so we can learn about what's going on in the field. What's going on interesting? Lauren, what do you got?
We had a situation where we had a buyer who had a home sale contingency. The sellers of the house they were buying gave them 2 weeks to have the property under contract. Their property was not under contract at that 2-week mark. Sellers agreed to give additional time. But then the list agent was like, well, I need you to write up a whole new offer for this. An agent that doesn't do a particularly large amount of business, so couldn't think logistics of just an extension or something like that to the term of the contract. And being a very new agent, her second transaction ever, just thought that was kind of what had to happen, right? Because it was being requested of her and didn't really know, right? Talked through it, realized that we could just do an extension rather than rewriting an entire contract, that one piece, that one term of the contract. And so I just wanted to, put it out there how important like these conversations are, this roundtable is, so that we can learn these steps, right? And it doesn't matter if somebody's been in the business for years. That doesn't mean that they understand the way everything processes and goes and things like that. So.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that, and there could be times where we do need to rewrite a whole new offer. Right? We could be changing so many different things that maybe an addendum doesn't make any sense. And hey, let's go with a fresh, clean offer. So you really got to kind of, assess the situation that you got in front of you. Understand, hey, can we just do an addendum that just changes this one date, does that one extension, does, whatever the case might be? Or do we need a whole new contract? There's just too many moving parts here. And we had something come up the other day too with regards to signing of a contract and then trying to get into a new contract, right? We were talking about how the documents actually save in .loop, but I think the thing for this group here to understand is until you've got a fully new executed deal, both sides, the original deal is still in place. So we could be talking about changes to the contract. I could have signed it. I could have sent it out. But until both parties have fully executed whatever that addendum is, it's the original contract that's still in place, and it's going to go by those terms. Amber.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of this deal that Lauren's talking about. It was mostly because now that we're setting a new extension, purchase and sale date's going to change. Inspection period is going to change. All of the closing is going to change, all of that. So there were those dates, but in this instance, an addendum just did work better, just changing that versus a new offer.
Yeah. Anybody else have any just extension, addendum kind of things that have happened recently on a deal that we should put out on the table and discuss? Anybody have anything weird happen with an extension, addendum, change to the contract? That would be a good share. Okay. Let's, Kate, we'll let you kind of take it over here. I know you had a couple of things going on in your world that you wanted to share with the group, so I'll let you have the floor.
All right. Good morning, everybody. To kind of feed off of what you guys were just talking about, I'm the type of attorney that likes to have everything in writing. So if there's any sort of change, whether it's a number, whether it's a date, whether it's somebody's name, I always ask for some sort of addendum, something in writing that both parties sign, so there's no question later on. I know that some areas, like I know Worcester County, for example, does a lot of like, please take this email as, acceptance of the terms, blah, 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 blah. Which is fine, I guess, but I personally like to get something separate, so it's like easier for me to keep in my folder and then whatnot. So if anybody has any questions, you can say, nope, everybody agreed to this. It's also important to get your attorney any sort of changes. It's never fun for us to find out the day before closing or day of closing that there was a closing cross credit or something like that, for example, that we never received that addendum or that agreement. And now that messes with all of the numbers and whatnot for the closing that's coming. So just a quick aside of that, just make sure your attorneys know of any changes.
Yeah, and
If you have questions on any
I think it's pretty
like
common.
verbiage.
I think it's pretty common, Kate. So I'm glad that you're stressing this, that we just do something and maybe it's just a small little change and both parties agree and we get it, and then it doesn't make it over to the attorneys or closing company. So yeah,
And
just
like text messages and stuff like that. I've seen that come back and bite people. Well, I have it on a text message that they agreed to this. Okay, great. That doesn't really help me if I have to fight for something. So, having
the
things
other.
in writing and signed by both parties is important.
I think the other thing is the agent cannot make a decision, right, for the client. So if the agent sent you in the text message, yeah, they're willing to leave the appliances or whatever the case might be, whatever change, that's not going to fly if the seller really pushes back. Like if we don't have
Right.
something signed by the seller that says they were willing to leave those appliances, the fact that the other agent texted you and said, "Oh yeah, my clients are fine with it," it's not going to hold up. Yeah, what'd you have for
Um,
us?
all right. So today I'd like to talk about how the Registry of Deeds is your friend as an agent. Um, a lot of people don't really even know how to use it or that that it even exists. So this is me telling you that Registry of Deeds in Massachusetts, it's the Registry of Deeds. In Connecticut, each town hall has their own clerk's office, which holds the deeds and recording instruments. It is in Massachusetts, everything is online. You can go to the Hampden County Registry of Deeds and you can search a property, you can search a person, and you can find out a lot. So I always think it's a good idea if you're putting a house on the market, you represent the seller, do a quick search. I mean, that's what a title search is. Ultimately, I mean, a title search is a much more detailed search, but you can go on the Hampden County Registry of Deeds, look up 123 Parker Street, and you have a whole history of things that have been recorded, discharged, all of that. You can go back 20 years, let's just say, and say, okay, my guy seems to be pretty good. He has the deed, there's a mortgage, you can kind of see what's going on. You can also see if there's a lien on that property. You can see if there's any other like attachments, money wise on that property. So sometimes if you're listing a property, you're in your head, you're like, oh, I want to list it for 300,000. But the person doesn't know that they have a $24,000 lien from a mechanic's lien from a roof they had done years ago. So now all of that money needs to be factored into those closing costs, right? So a quick check on the registry could help you prepare for that conversation, or could at least give you a good, idea of what you're looking at as the list agent. It also shows you who is on the deed. A lot of people think that, okay, my mom is on the deed, but she passed away, so it's all like automatically goes to me. That may be the case depending on how the deed is drafted, but it may not be the case. I have a deal right now that has to go through probate and nobody knew because the woman on the deed with the current seller passed away. She was in Connecticut, so it didn't come up on a title search or anything like that. So nobody knew that she passed away except for the seller. And we just found out that she had passed away, and the deed. So you can hold the deed three ways: tenants by the entirety, which means you're married, which means that if one of the spouses pass, is automatically goes to the surviving spouse. Okay. Then there's joint tenants with rights of survivorship. It's the same concept, but you don't have to be married. So Steve and I can own a house together with joint tenants, rights of survivorship. I die, it automatically goes to Steve. In Massachusetts, you just have to record a couple of documents, but you don't have to go through a whole probate process. Not true in Connecticut. And then you can hold as joint tenants. And joint tenants, so Steve and I owned a house as joint tenants. I owe 50%, Steve owes 50%. if I die, my 50% doesn't automatically go to him. So this, in the situation that I have right now, the tenants they're held as joint tenants. So this woman passed away and her 50% interest does not automatically go to her, I believe it's her nephew. So we just learned of this last week, and now we were supposed to close in a couple of weeks, and now this has to go through probate. So I guess the reason I'm saying this is, you know, as a list agent too, you know, as a buy agent, you can look at the deed and say, okay, why is this person on the deed? Is this person alive or dead, right? But as a list agent, you should have known that there was two people on this deed and that one of them passed away. You know, finding this out, you know, well into the transaction is frustrating for all parties involved. But you can spend 10 minutes, go to the Registry of Deeds, pull up the deed, pull up the mortgage. You know, you could take 5 minutes and you can save a lot of time in the long run, before you even list a property, because you know, knowing who is exactly on the deed and who needs to sign, if they're alive or dead, if they're getting divorced, all of those things are super important, and it can be easily looked at, you know, prior to even listing the property. Because not all the sellers all the time don't know, you know, what any of that means either, you know what I mean? So they might not know to say, hey, this person's passed away, no probate was done, you know what I mean?
I think
Because
on
I've been
these
having a
two
lot of,
guys, like I know when you're on the buy side of a transaction, right? We're not going to probably pick an attorney until we have a deal put together. But when you're listing a house, like the seller's probably going to know who they're going to use, right? So take a quick look at the registry, list the property, notify the attorney, hey, we're putting this thing in the market. Could you take a look at it too? I don't see anything weird. Like get the parties involved early, right? If you don't feel comfortable going through the registry or you took a quick look and something doesn't look right, you know, get the attorney involved at that point. You know, they'll happily take a look at it. It takes them, you know, even less time than it's going to take you. They do this a little bit more frequently. So
Mhm,
get the attorney involved when you're listing the house instead of waiting until we got a deal put together.
I agree. And that's, you know, something that people don't know too when it comes to deeds. So if I buy my house as a single, you know, person, you know, 123 Parker Street's owned by Kate Garvey, then I get married. So I now go try to sell 123 Parker Street. I'm married, and in Massachusetts, this is not true of Connecticut, but in Massachusetts, you have homestead rights. So when I get married, those homestead rights automatically apply to my spouse. So when you are selling your house, even if that person is not on the deed, that spouse has to sign off on those homestead rights, right? So it's important for us to know too, if those people, if the seller is now married. I send out questionnaires and we ask these things, but not everybody does that. You know, it's important for the attorney to know that even though there's only one seller on the property, that they are married, because we do have to get signatures from the spouse to sign off on the deed, whether it's the deed itself or an affidavit that we can record after. And sometimes that's not a problem, but sometimes it is. You know, I literally had a closing that was supposed to happen, or did happen yesterday, but the wife is in Missouri and the husband is here. So we had to mail the document for her to sign, and she sent it from Missouri, but Missouri had a lot of storms, so we never received the actual document. So it kind of posed a little bit of an issue. We closed, but you know, it is what it is. But you know, not knowing, the person also did not fill out a questionnaire, so there's that. But we didn't know that they were married, you know, until recently. So like that kind of stuff is important too. May not show, it won't show up on the Registry of Deeds, but it's important to tell your attorney, hey, my client is, if on the sell side, my client is married, which means we'd have to get an additional signature. So those are
Anybody?
just some of
Yeah.
them.
There's a lot with this stuff. Does anybody have any questions regarding registry, looking up deeds, what you should be looking for? Any
Because
of
when, you
this?
know, when you get like when I get a purchase and sale agreement, I'll see that it says like the estate of somebody, so I know it's in probate, or trustee of, so I know that there's a trust, right? But that's not always, I mean, a trust, yes, but like, you know, you pull a deed, everybody looks, you know, we don't know if people are alive or dead, right? So you're definitely looking to see who is on the deed and because sometimes people forget that they added their sister or their mom's on the deed or things like that. So it is really important to look because it could, be an issue at closing.
Questions on putting the listing agreements together, putting a house to market, looking at the registry? Or did you have something happen on one of your transactions that would be a good share for the group? Hey, just to let you know, this happened on my deal. Those are always a good share too. Had something weird happen. Okay.
But definitely, go online. If Hampden County is where you do most of your work, like spend some time, familiarize yourself with it because it's a very useful tool. And can, save a lot of headache in the long run just by taking 5 minutes and searching, a property.
Maybe search your own property.
Mhm.
See if you understand everything that's in there.
There you go.
It's always a good place to start. Lauren.
I love this idea of going to the Registry of Deeds because we often as agents will go right to public record. And I will tell you that there has been many a times where the name that we see showing on public record doesn't actually match the Registry of Deeds, right? Or maybe like Kate was saying, there's an additional person that will find listed in the Registry of Deeds versus just the public record that we have access to in MLS. So super resource that we have available to us.
Yeah, and like I said, it does list if there's liens on properties or, tax taking or anything like that. So at least, you're not walking into it blindly. And just a quick aside, there's the Registry of Deeds and then there's land court. They're two separate things. The Registry of Deeds is for your, 90% of your transactions, and the land court is for like 10%. And what land court means ultimately is there was some sort of issue that needed to be resolved. It could have been a probate issue, could have been a boundary issue. There's tons of issues that it could have been, but at some point it needed, it went to land court at some point to be resolved. And that is why it is still there. So when you're searching the Registry of Deeds, if you can't seem to find something there, also check land court because it could mean that it's in the land court registry and not just your general registry. And that's for Massachusetts. Connecticut's a little bit different. And when it comes to land court too, I usually send all my documents to land court to have them review like the deed and things like that, because they are very, very particular. And things get kicked back a lot when you try to record. So it is a practice at Garvey Law, at least, that we send anything that's going to be recorded, we send to them for review prior to closing date, so we don't have any issues on closing date.
One of the other things to keep in mind that gets recorded at the registry are going to be easements. So they could be recorded or they could be part of the deed, I believe, right? It could be either or. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Knowing that there's some easements could, sometimes the clients don't even know that there's an easement for the gas company to come and access, or the electrical company, or whoever might have, the neighbor might have some sort of an easement. So understanding that stuff is definitely a good little check to do before you list. All right. Anybody else have, anything on this topic, just in general, that you want to throw on the floor that you'd like to discuss with this group? If we don't have any other hands, I was going to I've been teeing this up for a while. We just haven't gotten to it. Let me just share my screen.
Welcome to our tutorial on using HighNote.
I wanted to show you guys a piece of software. Raise your hand. Has anybody used HighNote? Do we have anybody that's used HighNote on the call? All right, so it's new tech to everybody. So HighNote is I guess it's like a more advanced PowerPoint presentation. it could be interesting for you guys on the listing side. We're talking about working with sellers here a little bit, and what it allows you to do is maybe have a PowerPoint type presentation. Maybe it's a pre-listing presentation that you could send out to the seller to kind of see if they actually looked at stuff, where they might have spent their time. So it's going to tell you how long they were on different parts. So if you've got somebody that's analytical, obviously we always encourage pre-listing packets to go out. This is an easy one, so you don't have to put it in the mail. You don't have to go and drop it off. You could just email it with some information, and then you'll know, right? Because right now, if you just send a packet, we have no idea. Did they actually look at the packet, or do I need to go through everything? Or you know what? I can see they spent a lot of time on the commission slide, or a lot of time on the marketing slide. Maybe I should just ask some questions, or spend a little bit more time when I'm at the kitchen table regarding that. So let's take a look at HighNote. And see if it might be something that you integrate into your business.
HighNote, the revolutionary, easy to use presentation and proposal builder that helps you deliver all you need in minutes. Once you've logged in, you'll land on a dashboard where you can see all your existing presentations. Click on the new presentation button. You can start one from scratch, or you can choose from various templates to kickstart your design. First, give your presentation a title and add a beautiful header image for greater impact. You can also include an opening message, your logo, or your headshot for a personal touch. You can drag and drop or upload most files, including PDFs, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Keynote docs. You can also add links to web pages or videos. You can also add section dividers and even contact forms. Describe the content and adjust or change the cover image to make it look even more impressive. Rearrange the order of your content and hide the content you don't want to show right now. At the end, you can close it all with a final message. Preview your presentation before sending it by clicking the preview button. Once your presentation is ready, you can create a public link as a web page and make it visible to search engine as well as to our Built with HighNote community of users. For tracking individual reader activity, generate an individual link. Send it via your own email or let HighNote handle the emailing. After sharing, you can delve into analytics. Each time your presentation is opened and its content accessed, you'll receive valuable data, helping you win that deal. If you ever need assistance or have questions about using HighNote, be sure to explore our Help Center. And that's it! Start creating and sharing to take your presentations to the next level.
Oh, stop that. So pretty interesting software, and it can utilize both buyer presentation and listing presentation. They got a ton of templates in there. I think it's something, if you were to send out to a buyer just to see how much time do they spend looking at the inspection process, looking at how important it is to get their pre-approval or their mortgage side of things. And it's professional. You can customize it to each individual person. You can get them a custom link if you wanted to, or you can just have a generic one. They can put in their email or their phone number in order to track, who is actually looking at the presentation. So I think it's quick, it's easy. I don't think it's that expensive, maybe $30 a month. It just super professional in my opinion, and it could be the difference between you winning that listing and not. So anybody have any questions about HighNote? Okay. What's everybody doing? Anybody doing pre-listing stuff right now? Or are we just showing up to the appointments?
No pre-listing coming this tender for the appointments.
Yeah, my fear is a lot of people are just showing up for the appointments, and I think to just kind of set the stage that you're a pro, whether they look at it or not. I think getting something in your seller's hands, both presentation wise, maybe even like some sort of a personal note. At one point we were creating boxes of cookies and chocolate that we would just drop off a couple of days before the presentation. anything that you can do to just already show before you've even stepped into the house that you're above the competition, I think is just a huge benefit. Julius, I saw your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the HighNote. Is that an app, Steve, or is that a
It's a website. Yeah, I don't
website?
know. Most companies at this point have apps that go along with the websites, but I would take a look at the. I would just start on the website. It's like highnote.io, I believe. Highnote.io.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thanks. And as far as sending stuff out to the sellers, what I do send out a pre-listing packet. I do send out like a note right after the phone call, if it was a phone call first and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely a pre-listing packet I send out to people.
Yeah. And so this is just a little upgrade on that pre-listing packet to just try and see, one, did they look at anything, right? Because it's always weird. Hey, did you look at what I sent you? Oh yeah, we took a quick look at it. Did you really? Did you just open it? With HighNote, you can see exactly how much time they spent, where they spent their time, and usually where they spent their time is what they're most interested in. So now we can focus our presentation on that. And the same thing on the buy side, right? If you guys want to win more buyers and get more buyer contracts signed, have a professional presentation. And it's not going to take you long. They've got a ton of templates in there. You can just, R&D one of those and make it your own. Any other thoughts on what you're doing pre-listing or what's in those pre-listing packets or what kind of pre-listing steps you guys are taking? Anybody want to share something that they're doing that's working? The silence makes me nervous that we're not doing anything pre-listing. So I think come up with something. The next time you've got a listing opportunity, I would just do something. Get something out, drive by the neighborhood, show that you're marketing the neighborhood, show that you know the neighborhood, show that you were in the neighborhood, show that you were thinking about them. I know one of the things that Tom Ferry had done is he's just got a slide where it talks about all the marketing, right? And they just literally are changing the street number or street address at the top. Hey, and take a picture of it. Hey, just thinking about the marketing plan for your property. Excited to meet with you tomorrow. Right? It's the same marketing plan that you're going to have. You're changing the address at the top, but show that you're actually thinking about them and their property and that it means something. They're not just another, notch on the belt. Stacy, did you have something?
I did. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, good. I was wondering if HighNote, is there any way we could get someone to design maybe a buyer presentation and a listing presentation and then send them to us? I would definitely use that.
I don't know that there's a way to send. You got to design it inside of the application. You can't have it designed outside and imported in. But I will tell you, there are hundreds, if not thousands, from my recollection when I went in there, of templates. So there's going to be one that's really, really good. It's already going to be done for you.
All right. If it's easy, I'll try it.
Yeah, I would give it a shot. And if you're struggling with it, then let me know, and we can work with, one of our designers to design something up. But, you utilize a couple of slides that highlight the brokerage, utilize a couple of slides that are going to highlight you, and then utilize a couple of slides that are going to highlight the property. I think.
All right. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. And I think the insights that you're going to get it just makes that listing presentation, the time at the kitchen table, that much easier.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Yep.
I'll try it.
Try it.
Thank you.
Play with it. You bet. All right, we are at the buzzer here. Let's take a look at some training that is available today. We have the Trends and Tactics Mastermind, Psychology-Driven Sales, Building a Pipeline of First-Time Homebuyers, Serving Your Sphere, and that's where it ends. So 4 opportunities today. Take a training. learn something and come back and share it with this group and jot down your stuff. I know you guys are doing more deals and more stuff is going on your deals, and we want to talk about it. I want to learn from what is going on, even if it's not something that you struggled with. It was just a hurdle that you overcame. I promise you somebody else can learn from that. So have yourselves a great Tuesday, and we'll come back and do it again tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Have a good one.